Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we are stepping into a subject of profound gravity. We're going to examine one of the darkest, most unfathomable chapters of human history, but we're doing it to uncover a blindingly bright testament to the human spirit. We're exploring the life and the philosophy of Dr. Viktor Frankl. Now, you probably know him as an Austrian psychiatrist, a brilliant philosopher, and a wildly renowned author. But long before any of those prestigious titles could define his legacy, he was a man subjected to the absolute, unimaginable extremes of human suffering. As we journey through this explainer together today, I want you to anchor one specific phrase in your mind, okay? Finding something to live and die for. Because Frankl's insights, they weren't just dreamed up in some comfortable ivory tower classroom. They were literally forged in the fires of immense trauma. So let's look closely at the philosophy he ultimately gifted to the world.
So, what keeps a human being going? It's a question we might just casually toss around, during a really tough week at work or maybe a difficult personal transition. But I want you to really sit with the pure, unvarnished weight of those words for a second. When everything, and I mean literally everything, is stripped away from you. When the superficial motivations of our daily lives, the paychecks, the social status, the daily routines are entirely erased, what is the core engine that keeps your heart beating and your feet moving forward? Let's just pause right here and let the sheer magnitude of that question settle in your mind.
All right, Section 1, the worst of places.
Okay, let's really dive into this. Because to actually understand the purest answer to what keeps us going, we have to travel back to the ultimate crucible. Over the course of 3 agonizing years, Viktor Frankl was imprisoned across 4 different Nazi concentration camps. I mean, try to wrap your mind around that timeline. Every single day, every single hour, was an active fight against total annihilation. This wasn't just imprisonment. This wasn't an unimaginably bleak backdrop where the very concept of human decency was entirely suspended. Frankl was plunged into an environment specifically, systematically designed to break both the human body and the human spirit. The daily reality of what Frankl and his fellow prisoners endured is almost too horrific to put into words. The inmates were constantly exposed to severe, gnawing famine. We're talking about a hunger so deep it consumed their every waking thought. And this was compounded by widespread, rampant sickness with absolutely zero medical care. Nothing. Then, of course, there was the exhausting, backbreaking slave labor, which was engineered to extract every last ounce of physical energy they had left. And hanging over all of this, constantly, was the ever-present, terrifying threat of arbitrary punishment or sudden execution. They were completely 100% at the mercy of sadistic SS guards who held absolute power over life and death.
But, the horror wasn't just inflicted from above. It was actively engineered from within, through what were known as capos. These were actually fellow prisoners who were granted special privileges, maybe slightly better rations or slightly better sleeping conditions. And in exchange for those scraps, they willingly collaborated with the Nazis. The historical accounts tell us that these capos often acted even more ruthlessly than their SS masters. Imagine the psychological toll of that for a second. It added this incredibly insidious layer of betrayal to an already horrific existence. Because the camp system was explicitly designed to completely strip away all human trust and all human solidarity, turning victims against one another just so they could survive another day.
Just listen to these words, derived directly from the accounts of Frankl's own experience. Moved around like a defenseless flock of sheep, kicked and beaten by their shepherds, stripped of all human dignity. There was no freedom left. Zero. All civil liberties were gone. All personal possessions were taken away. Your name, your life's work, your family, everything was erased. Yet amidst this total, catastrophic loss, Viktor Frankl did something truly extraordinary. He remained a psychiatrist. He actually became an active, meticulous observer of raw human psychology, undergoing the ultimate unthinkable stress test. He paid incredibly close attention to how the human mind reacted when every single external support structure was violently ripped away.
Which brings us to an incredibly stark, unavoidable question. When they've taken all your liberties and all your possessions, and when death at short notice is almost inevitable, is there any reason not to give up on life? In an environment completely defined by an absolute, suffocating lack of hope, what logical argument is there to keep enduring the beatings, the starvation, and the sickness? Honestly, why not just surrender? It is, frankly, the most rational question a person could possibly ask in such an irrational, hellish landscape.
Section 2, the Great Divide.
Now, as Frankl observed his fellow prisoners navigating this waking nightmare, he witnessed a profound shift, a great divide. We are transitioning right now from the unimaginable physical horrors of the camps to the deep psychological reality taking place inside the minds of the prisoners. Given that absolute stripping of dignity and the near certainty of death, many prisoners understandably surrendered to giving up. They completely lost the will to live, succumbing to the overwhelming despair of their inevitable fate. And honestly, you couldn't possibly blame them. It made sense, but miraculously, others were holding on. Despite enduring the exact same starvation, the exact same brutal beatings, and the exact same suffocating hopelessness, they somehow found a hidden reason to endure the suffering. They carried on. And Frankl became absolutely obsessed with understanding why. What was the core psychological difference between the man who surrendered and the man who pushed forward?
His intense, daily observation led to this profound realization, which he wrote. There's always a reason to live even in the worst conditions. There's always meaning in suffering. This right here is the core philosophical lesson derived directly from his experiences and chronicled in his legendary work, Man's Search for Meaning. Frankl concluded that suffering, no matter how unjust or horrific or random it seems, does not inherently destroy a person's reason to exist. Because if life has meaning, then suffering must also have meaning. Why? Because suffering is simply an ineradicable part of life. You can't separate the two. This is a monumental, absolute game-changer in how we view human endurance.
Section 3. Driven by Meaning.
Now, what's really interesting about this is we are stepping away from the physical confines of the camps for a moment and into a broader theory that challenges almost everything we think drives human behavior. For a very long time, mainstream psychology and society at large have basically told us that humans are primarily driven by superficial pursuits, right? The pursuit of pleasure, the pursuit of success, and the pursuit of power. We are taught that we seek comfort, we seek high status, we seek dominance over others. But Frankl's time in the camps completely shattered this assumption. Think about it. When pleasure is literally impossible, when worldly success is totally irrelevant, and when you have zero power over your own body, what is left? Frankl realized that our fundamental, truest, deepest drive is actually the pursuit of meaning. When all those superficial drivers are stripped away, meaning is literally the only engine powerful enough to keep the human machine running.
So how exactly do we define this concept within Frankl's framework? Meaning is defined as a profound, deeply personal purpose that gives an individual something to live and even die for. I really want you to notice the words deeply personal there. Meaning isn't something someone else can just hand to you on a silver platter. It's not a generic slogan you read on a poster. It is highly, highly specific to you. It's tied to your unique circumstances, your specific loved ones, or maybe your unfulfilled life's work. Frankl recognized that this fundamental drive, this incredibly unique personal purpose, was the absolute deciding factor that allowed survival in the ultimate crucible. It was the only anchor heavy enough to keep the human mind from drifting off into the abyss of surrender.
And this brilliantly illustrates Section 4, Finding Your Purpose.
Which brings us to perhaps the most empowering part of Frankl's entire legacy, how we apply this to our own lives. Because look, if this philosophy holds true in the darkest, most agonizing, most horrific corners of human history, it undoubtedly holds true for whatever challenges we are facing in our own lives today. To explain this, he uses a really beautiful metaphor, grasping the star in the sky. Imagine being trapped in absolute pitch-black darkness, where the ground beneath your feet is nothing but pain and suffering. If you only look down at the mud, you will surrender. You'll give up. But if you can find a single point of light above you, a star in the sky, and lock your eyes onto it, you can navigate your way through the darkness. That star, that is your meaning. Frankl teaches us that if we can just grasp this personal meaning, we can overcome even the most painful, seemingly insurmountable circumstances in our everyday lives.
So practically speaking, how do we systematically apply this to our own hardships? Well, first, we absolutely must acknowledge our painful circumstances. Frankl never ever pretended suffering didn't hurt. Toxic positivity has absolutely no place here. You must face your reality head-on, no matter how bleak it may be. Second, we must look beyond pleasure or power. When you are going through a real, legitimate crisis, seeking mere physical comfort or superficial success is not going to sustain you. It just won't work. You have to actively abandon those shallow drivers because they will immediately collapse under the weight of true hardship. And finally, step 3. You must grasp your personal star. You have to find the why that makes the how bearable. It could be a child who desperately needs you. It could be a piece of art you feel you must create, a specific cause you must fight for, or sometimes it's simply the dignity of bearing your unavoidable suffering with incredible courage. Whatever it is, find it and hold on to it with everything you have. As we conclude this explainer today, I want to leave you with one final, incredibly important question. What is your personal meaning? Dr. Viktor Frankl proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that even when stripped of all human dignity, even when facing imminent, random death, the human spirit can endure if it has a purpose. And you, sitting there right now, you possess that exact same incredibly resilient spirit. So, when the superficial layers of life are inevitably stripped away, what is your star in the sky? What is it that you are truly willing to live and die for? Really think about it, because your survival and your ultimate fulfillment in this life depend entirely on your answer.